How long does it take to lose weight on tirzepatide? So in this video, I'll talk about how the SURMOUNT data shows some people lost 2%, had a drop in weight by 2% by week 12, yet 17% of weight loss by the year end. We'll also talk about how tirzepatide curves may stay shallow the first 4 weeks, and then it's like a hockey stick where you may rocket to like 21% peaks around 68, and this is the maximum dose, which please do not change your dose just because you heard that data. Talk to your medical provider first. And then the other thing we're going to talk about is how 90% of week 12 laggards, that's just where people like, I'm 90 days in, I'm not really seeing a bunch of change in my body composition, but by week 72 they go into this double-digit fat shredding, and this surge is impressive because what you want to do is you want to think of how can I master the tirzepatide's weight loss timeline, but even if it's slower, I want it to be permanent. And so this is where the ageless future operating system becomes really important, because in this video we're going to deconstruct how weight loss is just a number on a scale. It may not be the most meaningful thing that you can track. So we'll deconstruct that. I'll also talk to you about what you can do to help speed the process up in the healthiest way possible. So let's talk about this question. How long does it actually take to see weight come off on tirzepatide? And so I want to walk you through the data and show you what it reveals. So this first few weeks, and this was like, week 1 through 4, this is kind of that peak shred phase. This is when you don't want to panic, but you'll start to see the engine start turning on. Now, I'm not talking about this as definite because everyone's biology is different, but if you look at the patterns in the published clinical trials, you can set your expectation on real timelines rather than social media hype. And a lot of people, they make the mistake of thinking, I just need to dose it higher. Don't expect that you can do that in a safe way without working with your medical team. And if you need a medical team that's very phenomenal, they understand the ins and outs, the nuances, and how to get you healthy instead of just lose weight, how to actually build muscle, how to stack the right peptides, how to put you on the right detox protocol, how to correct your gut health, how to fix your brain. Well, you're like, Regan, your brain needs to be fixed. I hope you didn't take that offensively, but we all want to have healthy brains in the future. But all you need to do is go to agelessfuture.com. We've helped over 70,000 clients in the last 22 years. And my team there can help you get your blood labs ran, get a stool test, whatever diagnostics they feel is appropriate for you. And then they'll put together a very systemized protocol that's customized and personalized to your biology. Okay, so when the weight's starting to come off, sometimes the data shows that there's not much response in that first month, and then it's like a freight train that finally takes off, where the data shows that people, the scale just like goes crazy and people start losing weight dramatically. And this freight train, once it finally leaves the station, it starts moving, but it's not at top speed yet. So in one of the analysis of the SURMOUNT-1 trial, researchers looked at how people's weight changed over time on tirzepatide and tracked them all the way out for 72 weeks. They weren't just looking at one snapshot, they were looking at the whole curve, weeks 12, weeks 24, and 72, and asking who drops fast and who drops slow, and where do they end up at the end. And so this paper is titled Weight Reduction Over Time in Tirzepatide Treated Participants by Early Response. And this analysis from SURMOUNT-1. And you can read it yourself. I'll provide a link in the show notes here. And then another piece comes from the original SURMOUNT-1 results, which showed across doses, people were landing in that roughly 5 to 8% total body weight reduction range by around week 20, and then building towards those higher peaks later on, and where they reached 15 to 21%. That means the early weeks are more about setting the trajectory than hitting the final destination. So you're starting to see the curve bend, but not fully. So hang in there. As you read the studies, here's the part that should really calm down those of you who are so-called slow responders. So when they looked at this SURMOUNT-1, when they looked back historically, this post hoc analysis, they split people into early responders and late responders based on what happened at week 12. Early responders were those who had already dropped at least 5% of their body weight by week 12. Late responders, those are the ones that had lost less than 5% at some time point. Most people would look at that number at 3 months and think, I guess this isn't working for me. But then when they start following those late responders, they found that by week 72, 90% of them had ultimately hit at least 5% weight reduction. And the average time it took the group to reach that 5% mark was roughly 24.8 weeks. So about 6 months before they crossed that threshold. And that had a lot of people, there's this anticipation that we emotionally want to hit our goals quicker, but there's so many other nuances. And so as you start looking at this and you're thinking, oh, nothing's happening, I'm only down a few percentage, and I'm at 3 months, well, the data is literally telling you that it's not the end of the story. Like, keep going, but now let's dissect why you may be stalled out and why you're not getting the improvements that you expected to see. Well, number one is, are you eating enough protein? If you're not getting the protein in, your metabolic engine's going to be stalled out. You're not going to have the horsepower or the energy to start burning excess fat. The second thing is you're not exercising enough. And there's a great book called Younger Next Year. And so if you're someone like me who's pushing 50, you know that you've got to exercise more in order to make your next decade your best decade. And so this is where some of the Zone 2 training, working with a fitness advisor can help you get into that Zone 2 training adequate to lose the weight. And if you've got good adrenal and hormone health, and you want to be adding in those high intensity interval trainings. I love doing sprints. Every year I have challenges for my health. This year I'm trying to match the 40-yard dash time I had when I was 18, which was a 4.5 40-yard dash. Don't know that I can get there, but that is how I can really get my heart rate up. And it's led to vastly improved VO2 max. So that's something you can do if you're not, if you can sprint and if you're plateaued. The other thing is looking at your gut. If you're eating food and you're taking Tirzepatide, it slows down the gastric emptying. That means it takes food longer to process. You remember when you're a kid and you could just eat all the time and you're still hungry an hour later? Well, if you're an adult and that's happening to you, you've got blood sugar issues. And so Tirzepatide is a dual agonist. It's GLP-1 with the GIP, and the GIP helps stabilize the insulin resistance, and the GLP-1 helps turn off that food noise. So when you use these in conjunction, it's like magic. It's like a metabolic switch. But if your gut's not healthy, you can start having infections that build up. You can have a condition called SIBO, where you get bloated often. You can also have hypochlorhydria, which is where you're not producing enough stomach acids and therefore you're not denaturing the proteins. One of the easiest things you can do is take a glass of water, put about an ounce of apple cider vinegar, an ounce of unsweetened cranberry juice, a little bit of fresh squeezed lemon in the water, and drink that. Do it 2 or 3 times a day and see if that doesn't help break down the proteins and help with your digestive system. The more important thing is looking at a stool test. Now, it's everybody's favorite, but what a stool test does is it allows us to see if there's bacteria in your gut that want to store more energy, and any bacteria that wants to store energy for you means you're going to have more fat. Where are they going to store the energy? In your fat cells. So you want to get rid of those pesky little bacteria in the gut. If you have parasites can also cause a lack of nutrient sensing, and that lack of nutrient sensing gets in the way with your body's ability to break down proteins, absorb and emulsify fats, and then properly utilize carbohydrates as glucose and an energy source. Just if you're frustrated, you're not making the gains that you want, or you've actually, and when I say gains, I mean body composition improvements. If you're not losing the weight and you don't know what direction to take, the easiest solution is go to agelessfuture.com and you can meet with my medical team. You'll do an intro call first where my team will find out what your goals are, what you'd like to accomplish, and then we'll also identify what's interfering with your future progress. So I appreciate you watching this video. I'm Regan Archibald. I'll see you on the next one.